إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلام عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا. قال الله عز وجل بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Dear brothers and sisters, there's a very powerful story that they normally use as a way of teaching an important lesson, a very short one. And no doubt any culture, every culture has a version of this story, this parable, which is, imagine a man walking along a beach. He's walking along a beach and there are thousands and thousands of starfish stranded on the shore. And one by one he's picking them up and throwing them back in. He's trying to save them from drying out and dying. One by one he picks one up, he puts it back into the water. He picks the next one up, he puts it back into the water. As he is doing this, a man comes up to him quite obnoxiously and says, "What are you doing? There's thousands of them here. You're not going to save them. You're wasting your time." This man, he then looks at this advisor dead in the eye. He picks one of the starfish up, he shows it to him, and he says, "I'm making a difference to this one," and he puts it into the water. This parable, it teaches us a very important lesson, and it's the parable that I was thinking of in reference to what the news that we've seen in the last few days about the Safqatul Qarn, the so-called deal of the century. Indeed, when any bad news comes to us, whether it's about this topic, i.e. Palestine and its continual colonization by the Zionist occupation forces, or whether it's our brothers and sisters in Kashmir, or in India, or in East Turkestan, our Uyghur brothers and sisters, we're overcome by this feeling. This obnoxious advisor often comes to our own minds, inside ourselves, whispers to our hearts, "What's the point of what you're doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you saying this? Why are you speaking? You can't fix the problem." And it's important for us to know the response and offer the response to our young people when they ask us this. But what can we do to help our brothers and sisters in such and such place, far away? We can't help them. We can't fix their problems. It may be true that we cannot fix their problems completely. But remember this parable of this starfish. It may be that there are 1,000 things to do in order to, quote unquote, fix that problem. But just because we're unable to do that 1,000 things, we still may be able to do one or two at least. And that is what Allah is judging us based on. This is why the scholars of even Islamic legal theory, they have many principles that teach us this lesson, such as al-maysur la yasqut bil-ma'sur. That which is doable is not strucken off, it's not cancelled just because there's something which is not doable, something which is too difficult to do. Likewise, مَا لَا يُدْرَكُ كُلُّهُ لَا يُتْرَكُ جُلُّهُ. If you can't completely gain something or completely fix something, it doesn't mean you're allowed to completely forsake it and leave it. This is a very important principle for us to bear in mind. And this indeed is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us to account. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not say, why didn't you go and liberate Palestine? Why didn't you go and help the people in Kashmir? If you are a head of a state, for example, if you may be a general of an army, you have a whole legion following your orders, then maybe Allah will ask you that. But you and me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us different types of questions if we are held to account for these things. May Allah protect us. Because these issues, these calamities that happen to us, anything negative that happens, whether it's a natural disaster or it's an example of one people oppressing another people, it is a test for three types of people. Number one, it is a test, it is a tribulation for the oppressor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sometimes even aiding the oppressor with material assistance to create a bigger and bigger burden on that person's own neck on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Number two, it is a test for the oppressed. It is a test for the people suffering that oppression directly. What are they doing? How are they reacting? Are they reacting in a way that pleases Allah, or are they reacting in a way that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are they being steadfast? Are they being patient and perseverant, for example? Those are the two main people that we normally think of when it comes to oppression. But the third type of person who is tested in these types of calamities is the biggest group. And that is the group that includes us all probably. That is the group of the onlooker, the bystander, the spectator. All of us probably fall into this category. That something is happening somewhere, some oppression, some dhulm. But we are neither the direct oppressors, nor may we be directly being oppressed ourselves. But we are still being tested, because we are spectators to that suffering. We are spectators to that injustice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable accordingly. One of Shaitan's biggest tricks is to lull us into a false sense of security and blissful ignorance, thinking you're not the one oppressing someone, so you're not going to be questioned about this in Yawm al-Qiyamah. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold every single person accountable according to what ability he or she had. Now, when we often look at the news, we see something we don't like. See what's happening in Palestine right now. The protests against the so-called deal of the century. You see what's happening in East Turkestan, you see what's happening in Kashmir, in India, and Syria, and all of these places. We might feel, what can I do? We might feel, subhanAllah, may Allah help them. But by the end of this khutbah, inshallah, I want us to have a few core practical things that we can say to ourselves that this is something I can do. This is something Allah will ask me about. And these are the ways I can prepare my response to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My excuse before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it's easy for us to fall into the trap of thinking that all we're caring about is the material change. Like when one group of Banu Israel said to another, why are you warning those wrongdoers? Allah will punish them. They're not going to listen to you. Let Allah deal with them. They said something that we should all inscribe in our hearts. as our primary motivation, our primary objective for any enjoining the good, forbidding the evil, for any activism, for any politics, our primary concern is what? مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. So we have an excuse before your Lord. That should be front, right and center in our intentions for doing anything good, for calling for any positive impact or positive change. So that we have an excuse, we have something to say before Allah. And Allah, you put me in this position, this happened, and here is what I tried to do for your sake. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. And maybe they'll listen. This is what they said. They said, مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ يَتَّقُونَ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. They said, primarily, so that we have an excuse before your Lord, and maybe they'll listen to us. Maybe they'll fear Allah. So we still aim, we still want to bring about some positive change. But we're more concerned with our input. Are we sincere? Are we doing things properly according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? Are we putting ourselves in a position where Allah will be pleased with us? And then secondarily we think we want to make the impact. We want to make our positive impact. So I want to mention in the next khutbah, inshallah, 10 things we can all do whenever we see this bad news come on our news feeds, on our news channels, on our newspapers. Whether it's Palestine, Kashmir, India, Syria, Rohingya, East Turkestan, Uyghurs, all of these things. 10 practical steps that you and I can all do. A reminder for all of us. 10 things that we can do when we come across these types of examples of oppression. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Number one, our strongest means, our strongest weapon, our strongest means for any effect, our strongest cause for to bring about any effect is to turn to Allah with sincere dua. This is well established as a means to an end. And anyone who belittles this has signs of nifaq in their heart. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator and the controller of every atom of this universe. Let that sink in for a second. Remember that. Allah is the controller of every atom of this universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is therefore looking at us, testing us. Are we taking the means that He has put in this universe to bring about a positive change? Among those means, first and foremost, is to turn to Him. Turn to Him, to ask Him to bring about whatever change is desired, alongside all other means that we're about to mention. This is our number one priority. What will we say before Allah? Allah will say, Allah, I turn to you sincerely, whilst taking all the other means. Not only turning to Allah full stop, but find out those times of the day, times of the week, times of our journey even through this life, that are more beloved to Allah when it comes to answering du'as. On Friday, for example, when you're on a journey, when it's raining, when you're fasting, about to break your fast, for example. These are times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more likely to answer your dua just as you asked it. Number two, election season is over, and now is the time to build those relationships with your MPs and local government. Every single one of us can lobby our MPs. Every single one of us can lobby our local government. Every single one of us can go to theyworkforyou.co.uk, put your postcode in, and automatically you'll be able to send a message to your local MP. Build a relationship with them now. They're in their offices representing you and me. Speak to them. Meet with them in their regular surgery. Tell them that you are concerned about ABC, XYZ issue happening across the world even. We can all write a letter. It's all online now. Write an electronic message to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, FCO. And whether we like it or not, the United Kingdom has clout still on the global stage. A statement from the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office, it has some weight attached to it. Other countries follow, other statesmen follow. All of us can do this. And again, none of us should say, what's that going to do? What am I going to do? I'm just one person. Remember, our primary concern is what? That we have an excuse before Allah. So we can say to Allah, Allah, I spoke the truth to this person, I encouraged him or her to take a principled stand. Number 3, encourage public figures to issue a statement about something. We all saw the Arsenal football player, Ozil. He made a statement about our Uyghur brothers and sisters, and the Chinese state itself had to issue a furious response. Don't say it doesn't have an impact. They removed his fan club name from the Chinese search engines. They cancelled even Arsenal, his teams, broadcasting his team's football matches in China, costing millions of dollars. And they even removed him from his character from a computer game. Right? So it has an impact. We all have access to these individuals online. So just a reminder, number 1, make dua. Number 2, lobby our MPs and local government. Number 3, engage and encourage public figures to make a statement. Number 4, raise awareness yourself. This is something that a potential that we all have, and probably most of us don't realize how powerful we are. All of us have the potential to make something go viral. When you're on any social media feed, whether you like it or not, all of us has an electronic persona now. When you're seeing any news, whether it's in a search engine, whether it's in a social networking site, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, any of these things, all of them have their own algorithms. And those are just basically instructions. When they're showing you something, a piece of news or some important narrative that you think this needs to get people to know this, raise awareness about this. If you just scroll past it, that algorithm, that site learns something about that. It learns that that thing is not interesting. Even if you find it so interesting, you think this is very important, you scroll past it without engaging, that is going to be flagged up as something that reduces people's engagement, and it will show it to fewer and fewer people. But if you tap on that thing, if you click on that thing, if you write a comment, if you press like, if you share it, if you click through to that link, that will be flagged up by that social media's proprietary algorithm, that social network's algorithm. It will be flagged up as something which increases engagement, and it will show it to a larger and larger slice of the followers of whoever shared that thing in the first place. It's very important for us to realize, because it means all of us have the power to dictate the news agenda, but we don't realize it. Sometimes it takes 5 or 6 people in the first 60 seconds of a post being shared to make it go viral. Just 5 or 6 people. How many people are there here? You can create groups where you time when you send out an important piece of news or an important action alert or an important petition or whatever it is. And make sure all of your friends and colleagues, they're online at that time and they engage with that thing. And that's how you can help something. Just from the people in this room, you can help it reach the corner of the globe in today's electronic landscape. You don't need printing presses. You don't need power anymore. Raw political or financial power. All of us have the power to do that now. We all have these things in our pockets. They are a curse as well as a blessing. So use them for good. Use them for good. When you see some important news, an important narrative, an important action alert on your social media feeds, it's very important to engage with it. Click it, comment, like, share, all of these things. That's how we have the power to make things go viral and raise awareness of something ourselves. I agree with the sentiment that many of us have, that I don't like to just keep seeing negative news. That's an important thing to remember. But sometimes speaking out about something, speaking out against something negative, making inkar of a munkar, that in and of itself can be an act of worship. Speaking out against something evil, against something wrong, this is an act of worship. And we can share it with empowering messages for our brothers and sisters, so that they're not just blasted with negative. You turn it into a positive. You turn it into an opportunity to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 5, what can we do? Send messages of support to those who are directly affected by any calamity or any oppression. One of the most poisonous tricks of shaitan, when it comes to Muslims suffering in one place or another, is that sometimes he tricks them into thinking that the Ummah has forsaken us. Do not underestimate, dear brothers and sisters, the power of moral support. If somebody is going through some difficulty, just giving them that message of support that we are making dua for you, brother. We are supporting you all the way from the United Kingdom, from thousands of miles away. You are in our du'as. We wish we could do something, but all we can do is X, Y, Z, and we're trying to help you whatever way we can. This empowers a person and lifts up their spirits. Even the Prophet ﷺ was given moral support by Allah Azza wa Jalla. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bimajnun wa inna laka ajran ghayru mamnun wa innaka la'ala khuluqin 'azim. Allah swears by Noon. He swears by the pen and what they write. You are not by the blessing of your Lord, O Muhammad, a madman. Rather, for you is an unending reward, and you are on the highest standard of moral character. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam moral support and ithbat. So when somebody is being attacked, our brothers and sisters are being harmed, attacked elsewhere, far away, you and I should be the ones to give them moral support. Whether we do something as a masjid together, get our children to write cards and send them their cards and send them toys and gifts to the children of the places that are suffering. Or whether we as adults, we try and organize some kind of convoy or aid drop to places where it's needed. Or even just sending messages of support, finding those people on social media. Do not underestimate the power of this. Number 6 is an obvious one, charity. We should put our money where our mouth is. When we realize something is happening far away, and there are some reputable charities that are doing work to alleviate some of the suffering, we should all walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Number 7, find out and get involved in BDS action, boycott, divestment and sanctions. This is something that has a long history, and it shows, for example, with the South African apartheid regime and the activism against it, making a pariah out of certain countries or regimes that are oppressing innocent people. This has a proven track record of bringing about a positive change. This is a practical thing you and I can do. Encourage a boycott. Look to the advocacy groups for any cause that is out there. Whether it's Palestine, you have advocacy groups like Friends of Al-Aqsa, Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. Whether it's Uyghurs, Indian Muslims, Syrians, all of these causes, important causes, they each have their own advocacy organizations that work and NGOs that work either here or on the ground where it's happening. And they can advise us. These are the BDS opportunities. The boycott opportunities, for example. Your local university, if it has an exchange program with that particular country, it can put pressure on that way. These are practical steps that we can take to absolve ourselves of this duty. Number 8, write to your local media and national media organizations to cover important stories. This is the type of stuff that many organizations, many people do, many pressure groups do. And we in the UK as Muslims, we have numbers and we have dedicated people. Show me any other community that can get people and force them into the masajids out of their lunch break on Friday, on one day a week, and they're forced to sit here and listen to somebody speak. This is because of our commitment to Islam. This is because of our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we take this time out. 5 times a day we come together, we pray. No other community have this level of commitment. This is why the Muslims of the United Kingdom, for example, are a sleeping giant. We have power, but we don't know it. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 people to write an email to the editor of any particular newspaper for something to be put onto the news agenda. Journalists and editors, they're very lazy people. If they're given some stories, they normally run with them. We should be the ones who are constantly emailing, messaging. So all the editors, you can find all of the editors of the main United Kingdom newspapers on one website. If you just Google it, we can email them and say, this is a very important story, have you considered covering it? This is another practical thing that we can do. And number 9, create the next generation of change makers today. We always celebrate people like Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah. But he didn't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to liberate Al-Quds. He was raised with that vision. His parents, his grandparents inculcated, nurtured the successive generation with that one, for example, singular aim and objective to have in life. We might not be able to do materially massive change now, but we have our children to nurture, to give them a leadership mindset, to be creative and find avenues tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, in 100 years' time, to make monumental changes in the world that they're about to inherit. And finally, number 10, be creative. Be creative yourselves. Look for ideas to do plays, do short films, write stories, poems. There are so many ways that we can all get involved with any talent that we have to raise awareness about any interesting cause. So in summary, these are 10 practical steps that we can all do to, number 1, absolve the obligation Allah has given us, to carry out the obligation Allah has given us, to try and make any positive change around the world. Just in summary again, number 1, make sincere dua. Number 2, lobby your local politicians and governments and the government departments. Number 3, encourage public figures to issue statements about something. Number 4, raise awareness yourself, especially through the digital medium that we all have access to. Number 5, send messages of support to those who are being oppressed or those who are being harmed. Number 6, give charity to reputable organizations doing work on the ground, or even doing systemic work, like issuing legal challenges and so forth. Institutional work. Number 7, find out about and organize BDS action, boycott, divestment and sanctions. Number 8, write to media outlets yourself to make them cover these stories. Number 9, create the next generation of change tomorrow, today. And number 10, be creative. think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much talent in our communities that this comes with a responsibility also. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to act upon His guidance to help alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters all over the world. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وأقيموا الصلاة.